if you could do any job in the entire world and it wasn't really about money, like what would you do every single day as a job? Not like a hobby, like I want to be the greatest dirt bike rider, unless you want to do that every day.
No. Well, that's part of the problem is I don't know.
You're not sure?
Yeah, I really don't know. I've thought about it a lot, and I really don't have enough experience in other areas to know. That's part of the reason I'm going to go try out plumbing is because if I like it, like Peter knows me pretty damn good, and he says he thinks I'll really enjoy it.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking that if I do like it, go from there. But I honestly don't know what I would really want to do that I would love doing. It's kind of annoying.
No, it is. I think a lot of people our age are in that boat. Maybe just people in general are in that boat.
Yeah.
Because for me, obviously I have some hobbies I really enjoy, but if I had to do something every single day on a day-to-day basis, I mean, when I was a kid, I probably had a million ideas like, oh, I want to go, be... I want to go be Steve Irwin and go be like wrangle crocodiles on TV or, something crazy like that. But when it actually comes to, like realistic goals, like what job would you do? The longer I guess I go through life, the more I'm like, I just want something that I could do for like 6 hours a day and then like I value my free time more than I really value like caring about the job I do so much because like, I don't know.
Yeah.
A job's always going to be there. And I think that getting into tech would probably be a good idea because you can make a ton of money. You can work from home in a lot of jobs. You can work anywhere in the world, and it's not that many hours. So I guess tech would be like my dream job, but I'm probably going to go more in that direction because, eventually I do want to like own a ranch, probably somewhere out in the country, somewhere warm, either like in Texas or Arizona. And
that kind of warm.
Yeah. Well, I would say Utah, but I don't think I could live with the Mormons. Not for not like I wouldn't mind living with the Mormons myself, but I don't really want to raise my kids around the Mormons.
Why not? I've always thought it was a good environment, but I don't really have any experience in it.
So my experience, and it may have changed, I don't know, things have probably changed since I grew up, but it just, unless you want to raise your kids Mormon, if your kids aren't Mormon, they're always going to be like slightly excluded from everything because they're not Mormon. Or at least that's kind of how it appears to me because Mormonism, it's kind of like a whole community activity. Like everything's tied up in the church, you know what I mean? Everybody knows everybody from the church. Everyone's parents are involved with each other from the church. I'm not saying like your life's gonna suck, but if you're not part of the church, you're kind of missing out on like a key aspect of the Utah community if you're not Mormon.
Okay.
That's my experience.
Yeah, you got a pretty good point there.
And there's nothing wrong with Mormons. I think it's cool how they have their communities. I think it's cool how they have everything set up to go through the church. Like if you need help, if you need, anything, it's all the church has an answer for you. But if you don't want to actually be part of the church, it makes it kind of inconvenient, I feel like. And I just felt like growing up non-Mormon, in like a town full of Mormons, I always felt like I had to like, even though I was never like picked on or bullied for not being Mormon, I always like in the back of my mind, it was like this thing inside my head, like, oh, I'm not Mormon and these people are like, they're like, I got to establish myself as being different because I'm not the same. You know what I mean?
Really?
As a teenager. Yeah. I mean, you grew up Mormon, right?
Yeah.
For the most part. Clearly, not that Mormon because like as soon as you moved out, you're like, I guess I don't believe in that anymore. That was fun. Okay, that's an interesting story. So how did you go from being Mormon to not Mormon? Explain to me all your beliefs from when you first were capable of believing to when you were first capable of not believing.
Well, so the thing is I grew up being told that this is the way you're supposed to believe. This is the way you're supposed to feel. These are the feelings you're supposed to get when you do said things.
What do you mean by that exactly?
Well, you know how people say like, oh, I feel the Holy Ghost.
Sure.
For instance.
Yeah.
Whatever that means.
Have you ever felt the Holy Ghost?
No. Well, the thing is, like, I've never had any, like, moments like that to where, like, people say they pray a lot and then they just knew.
Okay. You've never had one of those, huh?
Yeah, I've never had one of those. Like, I've done a lot of church going. Like, I've even read the whole Bible.
The whole Bible?
No, wait, the Book of Mormon, not the Bible.
The Book of Mormon is a little bit more palatable, and it's shorter.
Yeah, I wouldn't know. I just read the Book of Mormon. But I did that. I went to church all the time. I was forced to go to church for the most part. That's probably a big part of it.
You were or you weren't?
I was.
Okay.
I was forced to go to church. So, you know how it is when you're forced to do something, it makes you dislike it pretty much.
Yeah.
Essentially, you know, that's kind of how it goes. But I was always forced to go to church as I was growing up. I never had any of those feelings. Like, I went to Mutual, did all the activities, all, you know, kind of all the stuff people usually do, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And I just never felt it.
You never felt the Holy Ghost, huh?
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah, like, it just never really set, I guess, or something to where, like, it never really quite I never quite connected with it. I don't know. Like, I don't even know the words to use, but, like, people would always tell me the feelings they would get from it, and I would never get those, like, ever.
Did you try, though, like, pretty hard?
Yeah.
You'd like, pray when you're a kid and, like, quietly on your own, you'd be like, okay, just one. Did you ever have that conversation where you'd pray and you'd be like, all right, God, just talk back to me one time.
Yes.
That's it. Just one time. Just let yourself, like, say something, anything, and I'll believe in you. Like, did you ever do that when you were a kid?
Yeah, a lot, actually.
And nothing ever, like, came of it.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, like, I did that a lot. Like, as I was growing up, it was just kind of a thing, you know, pray every night, go to church. My mom would read me the scriptures whenever she felt like it, which was very boring.
The scriptures, like the Book of Mormon, or are there other ones too?
Just, I have no idea what she would read. She would read them, and, well, the thing is, it wasn't always something specific. It was like maybe out of the Bible or the Book of Mormon, or maybe like, what are some other books, like the Book of Psalm or something? I don't even know.
Book of Psalms is in the Bible, but like the Mormons, they have Pearl of Great Price.
Yeah.
I don't know what that is, but I've heard of it.
Yeah, like that one.
And then what's the one that has that, like, outlines all the rules about modesty?
No idea.
What's that one called? Shoot, it's on the tip of my tongue. Whatever, we'll come back to it. I'll remember.
Well, the point is, she would read scriptures to us all the time. I don't remember. They weren't always from just the same thing. It was like when she found something good and she wanted to tell us about it, pretty much. But she'd do that, and, like, I grew up in that and never really felt it.
Yeah.
You know?
So you think that if you had experienced something or just, like, had any kind of, because it sounds like you've never had any kind of, well, I don't know, you never said that. Have you ever had any experience where you felt like you felt God or the Holy Spirit or anything like that?
None.
And you've never felt like there's something else out there?
So I've never, like, had that feeling, you know? Like, I believe there is something out there, but that something is kind of undefined.
Yeah, yeah.
You know? Like, I believe there is something out there, whether it be a god, a few thousand gods, the fucking sun's alive. Like, I believe there is something. You know, it could have simply be a more advanced race than us.
Yeah.
You know? I believe there's something out there, but it's undefined to me.
Yeah.
It's just something.
Like more of a physical thing out there, or more of like a fourth dimension, fifth dimension?
Undefined, dude.
Undefined. Like, you just something else is out there.
Yeah, I believe there's something else out there.
What's the purpose of that something else?
Whatever the fuck they want.
Do you think that something else made us, or is only a God to us because they're so much greater than us, but they're not really, like, they don't really have anything to do with us?
Kind of like any and all, pretty much. Like, I don't really have any specific beliefs on it. I just believe there's something else out there, whether it's simply a more advanced race, whether it's a God who created us, whether we came from monkeys. Like, I don't really have any particular beliefs on it. I just feel like there is something out there.
So I guess my question is, why do you believe there's something? Like, what value does it, like, what value do you assign to it in your mind, the belief that something else is out there? Like, does it give you a greater sense of purpose, or you just think it's more, like, likely, or what do you think?
I feel like it's just more likely.
More likely. So it's like it's more like an alien thing. Like, statistically, there should be aliens out there, even though they haven't talked to us.
Yeah, pretty much. Like, I don't really assign, like, a belief to it where, like, it's out there for a purpose. I just feel like there is something out there.
Okay, so it feels like we're kind of talking about two different things. The existence of other life and also the existence of God. Because the existence of God is more like God a creator, or God a, an instructor, or some greater thing that connects us all. So I guess it's kind of a personal question, but like, do you have anything in your mind that you assign, like, this is the thing that gives me purpose, or is it just like, hey, we exist? And
well, as far as this conversation we've been talking about, like, I don't assign, like, this isn't what gives me purpose at all. It's more of a, statistically speaking, I feel like there should be something out there.
Okay.
If it's a God, if it's simply another race, like, it doesn't really make a difference to me. Like, honestly, I feel like part of where this originated for me is, for one, the human race believes in thousands of gods. And to every one of those people, it's either this is the one true God or this is the one true group of gods.
Interesting.
That's kind of how it is, right?
Yeah.
Like for Jesus or whatever, God, like for the Mormons and stuff, it's like, this is the one true God. But then you have, like, people from all other parts of the world that believe that their God is the one true God, or their group of gods, So, like, partly because everyone believes there's something out there, it kind of adds a bit of belief to me that there's something created that,
Yeah.
Whether it's simply the human mind trying to create a greater purpose, and that's why all these gods exist, or it actually stems from something,
Like from
an actual god, or bunch of gods who created the planet. So that's part of where my belief comes from, that there's something out there because of everyone's beliefs. So it's either just all made up in their head because they felt lonely, or it actually comes from some type of situation that happened in the past.
Yeah.
It's religion, though.
All right. I'm going to take these off 'cause they're messing with me. But
okay.
The audio sounds good. So
That's good.
Okay, so growing up, you said your mom read the scriptures to you, and none of them stuck with you. At what point did you just decide, like, hey, I don't believe any of this, or was it a gradual thing? Like, how do you go from, because, like, for me, I guess it was a big, long debate in my head, and I had to, like, ask a million people and think about it, and it took, like, years for me to really figure out where I stand on all of it. But it seemed like when I met you, you were kind of just like, hey, whatever, we're here to try new things. And, like, it's funny because, like, you've always kind of been, like, you've always struck me as somebody that doesn't have, like, a lot of natural inhibitions. Like, you're, like, a really calm, laid back guy.
Yeah.
Like, not much gets under your skin. You kind of just, march to the beat of your own drum. But, like, you don't have, like, a lot of dogmas. Just like, it doesn't seem like you sit there and, like, judge things or circumstances. You're just like, oh, if it seems like, fun to do, like, let's try it out. It might be cool, might not be. So how did you develop that? Is it, like, your natural personality, or did you have to, like, sit there and, like, unpack a lot of things religiously to get to that point?
I think it was just, like, natural. Because, like I said, religion never like stuck with me, you know? I never felt anything for it. It was just what I grew up in with like zero attachment to it. My family is what pushed me into it, essentially. I was forced into it.
Yeah.
And I never actually felt any attachment to it. So I grew up my entire life with everyone believing, you know, having all these amazing feelings about it, being able to say their, what's the word? Their testimony.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah. Bear testimony.
As to why they believe in God, and they give all these amazing reasons. And like, I've never had any of that whatsoever.
Yeah. Have you ever like borne your testimony, buried
No.
your testimony? Never?
I don't know. I don't think I have.
Okay.
Yeah, I might have got up once and be like, God is great. So like probably just something basic like that. Or maybe I was feeling in the moment or something and be like, let's see what everyone else has been saying, or a slight variation or something.
Okay.
You know? But when I met Juliet and she was an atheist, and like when I grew up, atheists were like bad and evil and they hate people, and you know,
they hate people.
Yeah.
Who told you that?
Well, in other words, people have this view on atheists as in they're kind of hateful people, you know?
I guess I can kind of see that because a lot of atheism does lead people towards nihilism. Nihilism is kind of like a natural, I feel like kind of a natural symptom of atheism, the lack of like real purpose.
I don't know. But I guess when she showed up and kind of showed me her way, so to speak, she kind of showed me that like, hey, there's actually another option, you know? And she's an atheist and she doesn't believe in God. She doesn't believe that there is a God. She's always like, hey, if you can prove that there's a God to me, hell, I'll believe in him, you know?
Yeah.
But that's how she is. For me, I kind of fell somewhere in between of belief and non-belief, where I just like, here's a line of we're believers, and over here is a line of we don't believe in it, and I fell straight in the middle where I don't give a fuck.
That's kind of where I fell too, kind of. I guess I told myself I fell in the I don't give a fuck category.
Yeah.
But my personality differs from yours, I guess, in the sense that I do care. So I'd like sit there for a really long time and try and prove to myself one way or another. So I'd be like, I don't give a fuck. But then I'd be like, but maybe. And I don't know. I feel like it took me a long time personally to like try and figure out where I stood with it all. I guess because I guess I've been kind of asking you, but just to clarify where I stand with it, I would say that it makes sense to me. I think it's not only does it make sense, I think it's obvious, at least to me, that something made us.
Okay.
So like, and I say it's obvious, I mean like, it seems kind of absurd to me that we would all just come from nothing.
Essentially evolved from apes, pretty much. Like just evolved.
Well, okay, so whatever we could buy. I would even accept that we evolved from apes, but where did the apes come from?
Okay, that's what I was wondering. If you're saying like essentially where did the universe come from, you think somebody made us, pretty much. Okay.
Yes. Because it just seems absurd that we just popped out of nothing.
It honestly kind of does.
I mean, they have the whole theory of evolution, the Big Bang Theory, water accumulated on the planet. Eventually, somehow, there became germs, and then the germs and blah, 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 blah. But, like, just the structure of things, like, on any level, you know, the fact that we have, you know, this desk in front of us and cars that drive, and not even technology, animals, the ecosystem, the fact that things work the way they work, and that there's, like, an order to it, and there's, like, clearly a design to it because it all functions, and it's kind of like, without getting too woo-woo philosophical, like life is kind of art, you know what I mean? Like if you think about the planet in a broader sense and the fact that it's populated with small things, like it's clearly on display for someone or something, right? Like, why would so much life exist, and why would so much order exist, and why would so many different things exist if they weren't on display to be observed by somebody, right? You know what I'm saying?
I've never thought of this.
I guess I think about life in terms of art, and I just think that it makes life in general is too good of, I guess, what I would describe art to not have been purposely put there by someone or something in order to experience. But maybe it was us. I don't know. We could be in a simulation. You know, I subscribe. You know, I don't really have any definite belief on God. My only really definite belief is that we were created by something. 100% in my mind, we were created by something. It would not make sense any other way if we weren't. But what that thing was, I don't know. For all I know, we could be like in the Matrix in a video game, and we, you know, we paid to be here. We paid to like have this experience, and maybe we exist in some other form. Like, I'm open to that idea. I don't know, but I don't think for sure. I'm not an atheist in the sense that like I think that we just randomly evolved. Like, to me, that's so absurd. Like, I can't even imagine how anyone that's thought about it like really hard believes that.
Okay.
Maybe I'm not scientific enough. Maybe there's scientists out there that can like really get down into like the science of how atoms move and statistics and math and all this shit.
This atom
like,
touched
hey,
this atom and made you.
But I'm like, I don't know. I don't buy it. I don't buy that we're just random. It to me, the idea when I say that it makes the most sense that there is a creator, I think it's absurd to think that there isn't a creator.
Yeah. You definitely got a good point there, honestly. Like,
at what point were you a kid? When you were a kid, did you stop subscribing to the belief that...
Honestly, that's a good question. I don't really know if there's an exact point of time. The most exact point of time I could really say that affected my beliefs was really when I met Juliet. Like, before then, I had definitely kind of gone in and out of church, like on a mental level, because I always had to go. But there were times in my life where I'd kind of go in and out of it, where I was like, okay, I'm going to go to church. I'm going to try and feel what these people are feeling and really believe. And like, I would really try to be like a God-loving citizen.
Yeah. God-fearing, God-loving.
Exactly. Like, I would really try, like, as I was growing up, I was kind of like, okay, this is the way it is, you know? But then as I was getting older, I kind of realized, like, I'm not feeling what these people are feeling, you know? And that kind of went on for a while. And then for, like, a good, I feel like a year, but it could have been a few months or a day. Just kidding, not a day. But, like, probably around, 6 months to a year or something. This is kind of me guesstimating. I honestly have no idea. But for a while, I really tried to be somebody who believed in God and like really tried to feel it, what everyone else was feeling, you know?
Yeah.
Because I kind of felt a bit, I don't quite know if left out is the word that I'm looking for. Maybe it is. I never thought about it that much, but like, I always noticed like everyone else has this belief and like has this connection to God. And I'm like, I don't feel that at all, you know? So I tried to feel that for a while, go to church, say my prayers all the time, really try to think clean or good, whatever the word is you want to use, and just be a general, like you said, God-loving, fearing person.
Yeah.
And it just didn't work, you know? Like, I tried for a while, and it didn't make a difference.
So a lot of people have told me that they've experienced what they believe to be God, like the presence of the Holy Spirit or whatever. What do you think that is when somebody says they have that experience? Do you think they're full of shit and they're lying about it in order to fit in? Or do you think that there's some people that actually are experiencing something greater?
So, you know how when you believe something and then one dot connects to another and bam, it is exactly what you believe it is, essentially? Like, I guess that's what I'm trying to get to. I feel like when people have that belief, either A, there is actually a God out there and they're actually having that feeling, which I don't believe in, obviously. I'm not going to say they're full of shit because they don't have to be. They could honestly believe that God, like those people honestly believe that God exists, or so they tell everyone, like you said, they could be full of shit. I don't think most of them are. They really seem to believe.
Yeah.
I really think that they believe in it so much that when they have that feeling, they fully believe that it is what they think it is.
So do you think that that feeling is a feeling that they're having that they're creating, or do you think that's more a feeling that everybody has, but they're assigning that feeling to that is the God feeling?
That's what I think, that they're assigning it to it. Like for example, butterflies. When you get butterflies in your stomach, you know, it might be the next level up from that when it's like body and mind of like you have this moment where you're like, this is the thing. You know, you have an epiphany, so to speak.
Full disclosure, there's been a couple of times where I've been like, I'm pretty sure God told me to do that. But I also have like a history of schizophrenia in my family, so like, I don't know.
You're the chosen one.
I don't know. I'm making it sound like a joke, but I felt like I've felt the feeling of God. Like, no bullshit. It's only been a couple times in my life, but it's not happened any other time. It doesn't feel like anything else I've ever felt in my life.
Okay, can you describe it at all?
It's like, man, it sounds so hacky to say this, but just in my own terms, in my own words, it's almost like a feeling of just like knowing.
You know it.
Yeah, like when you ask for answers for something, because that's like the main thing. That's like the go-to thing for people like serious. And like, I'm not that guy at all. I don't give a fuck. I'm very much just like, listen, like just I prefer, I only like hearing people talk about religious things if it's funny. That's where I like, if it's funny, I'll listen to you talk about it. If it's not funny, fuck off. But like, just in my own experience, I have had a few moments in my life where I'm like, oh, that was God.
Like, just without a doubt.
Just like without a doubt, I'm like, oh yeah, that's what I'm supposed to do.
Okay, when you say that's what you're supposed to do, you're saying like, essentially it felt like God was like, do this kind of deal.
It feels like you're getting answers from a higher place.
Okay.
Like you're thinking about it and you're asking yourself and you're saying, what should I do? What am I doing? And then all of a sudden the answer comes to you, and it's so clear, and it's so like it's so obvious. Like, it's so not, I don't know if the word is obvious. It's just so like, there's no doubt in your mind that that's the thing to do. Right.
Okay.
And you're just like, and just suddenly in a moment, you're just like, oh, that's what I'm supposed to do. But it doesn't feel like anything you'd experience just on a day-to-day basis.
That's interesting.
That's the closest I've ever come to like experiencing anything like God. No one's ever talked to me, never heard any voices, never seen anything crazy.
He whispered in my ear.
No, that's the honest to God, no bullshit truth, is that I have experienced that a few times. So I kind of like understand what people are saying, but not enough to like join a religion, not enough to be like base anything. Like, I feel like without being too, whatever about it, to me it's like, okay, occasionally, like, I'll ask, like, in case there's something out there, I'll be like, hey, listen, what are we supposed to be doing again? Like, what is there like an overarching like, point to my life? And then occasionally, like, I'd say 2 or 3 times in my life I've felt like I've received answers, and the rest of the time it's been like, all right, like, if there is a God, he's like a parent that's like, all right, fuck off, like, go do your thing, you'll figure it out, I don't care. You know what I mean? Yeah.
So when you've had these feelings, it's something you've been thinking really hard on for a while, right? Generally, or at least it's been in the back of your mind.
Yeah, for a while, meaning like a couple weeks, couple months. Yeah.
Okay. Because there's this book I've read.
Oh, tell me about it.
It's called Psycho-Cybernetics.
It's Psycho-Cybernetics?
Yeah.
That sounds like the name of a company that produces hardware in Douglas Adams' Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. I think it's something cybernetics.
Okay. Well, anyways, this book actually talks about... Well, first off, this book has a lot to do with your mind. it's a lot about how you perceive things and stuff like that. It's a really good book. I'd honestly recommend it to anyone and everyone. But it talks about how your subconscious mind has like there's a fuck ton to it essentially. And I'm not going to get into detail because I'm bad at explaining things first off, but it talks about how you can essentially give your subconscious mind a task if you think hard enough about it, and it could literally complete it like while you're sleeping, you know? Like one example is this, the people that like dig up dinosaur bones and carve them out. Well, like an archaeologist. Yeah. Well, it tells a story about this guy, this archaeologist who was trying to dig out a fish skeleton. Like it was in the rock. They had it in the museum, whatever. And he was trying to fully dig it up without destroying it. And he spent like a long time, like really on it, just thinking about it, worried about digging into it because, you know, he didn't know where what was. And he would think on it a lot. And then one night he literally woke up with how the fish looked in his head. Like, just like that. Like essentially he knew, like he just knew how it was. And he thought about it for a minute, and he went back to the museum, looked at the fish, and was like, you know, this could make sense. And then it kind of faded in his memory. And then the next night he was still really thinking on it, and he set a notebook and pencil next to his bed. And when he woke up at night, he drew it out like in the dark, allegedly, I think he said. But essentially, he had no idea what this fish looked like underneath. Like zero clue. He spent time thinking on it and just really wondering about it. And then he woke up with it in his head.
How much of the fish was exposed already? Just part of it?
It made it sound like not very much. Enough of it was exposed, but enough of it wasn't to where he spent a while just pondering on how to uncover it. And then he literally woke up one night and drew it out on a piece of paper or something and went and carved the fish out, and it was exactly like that. Like he just knew. So the book kind of talks about how like your subconscious can literally find things that you didn't know about. It didn't touch on it for that long, but it brought it up for like a chapter or two, and it was really interesting. But when you said like you just knew, it brought this to mind for me.
Okay. So, but how do they know that's not God? That's my real question.
Hey, it could be God. It could 100% be God.
But that's the thing, is I also subscribe to like multiple theories. I'm not saying that like I say, because here's the thing. Man, I wish I knew more about this topic to be able to explain it better. I swear, there's so many things that like I know like 2% about, like enough to be like, hey, there's this cool thing I read about, but like not enough to explain it. But, you know, obviously the human mind is capable of, you know, some level of advanced mathematics, because, you know, if somebody throws a ball at you, you can reach out and catch it in the exact place where it's at in the air. And I'm pretty sure, you know, like that alone is an example of the human mind being able to calculate speed and, you know, a million other things instantly in order to make that calculation, make it happen. Like that's, and I don't know if it's exactly math or how it works, but clearly your brain is capable of doing things subconsciously. And I there's probably multiple areas of your brain that do a lot of different things, and they may or may not necessarily be aware of each other.
Yeah.
So, you know, the fact that you have a subconscious brain that's constantly working on things and figuring things out like a computer, I think that's absolutely, you know, the case. It seems like that's the case. You fall asleep thinking about something, you wake up the next morning and you have an answer to it. But I guess who designed that subconscious brain? You know what I mean? Like, how did it get there?
And here we go, round circle.
I'm not saying, and I'm not even saying that, okay, every time your subconscious brain figures something out, that is God or it's not God. I'm just telling you my honest experience. I've had some legit experiences where I'm like, okay, if there is a God, this is what it is. Could just be my subconscious. I've also had a lot of experiences with my subconscious that were different to where I'm trying to figure something out, and then all of a sudden the answer, I just figure it out all of a sudden. You know what I mean? It's different. It's a different thing that I'm talking about. Yeah, I've had a lot of interesting just experiences just once in a while where I'll just suddenly just feel like, you know, things are like meant to be or clicking into place. You're like, I don't know. I'm not enough to like start a religion around it or anything, but
like sometimes things just click or they essentially appear in your mind.
Yeah, enough to the point where it's like, hey, clearly this is working out. And enough to the point where, like, it's something that I guess I do look to, like something I do try to, like, look towards for answers. You know, like if I'm in a position of life where I'm not really sure what the next step is, like, it's worked out enough to the point where I still, you know, like, whatever you want to call it, I'll pray about it. You know what I mean?
Okay.
I'll sit there and I'll ask myself, like, okay, like, you know, whatever it is that's out there that's running this whole simulation, the world, whatever it is, like, what's the next step? Like, I bought the video game, I plugged myself in, I'm in the Matrix now. Like, I don't know if I just fucking went way too far on a side quest and I totally missed the main storyline or what, but like, if you could fucking tell me what I'm supposed to be doing, that would be great. You know, like those kinds of conversations. And then, you know, things pan out, or they have been, and it very well could just be something inside of my head that just doesn't want to accept the fact that I'm alone in a meaningless universe with my own thoughts and ambitions and you know, personal things I have to contend with. But I guess it just makes more sense that there's something out there, and it could just, like I say, it could be yourself. It could be yourself on the other side, waking up every time you fall asleep and being like, ooh, I was just in there for 18 hours. And he's kind of a dumb build. I'll probably delete him later on and restart. But for now, it's fun. Like, who knows what's going on the other side. But I don't know. It feels like there's some kind of meaning to it.
Okay.
Most of the time.
You really subscribe to this whole video game theory,
I mean, there's the saying, does life mimic art or does art mimic life? Is that how that goes, or is
no idea.
It's something to that effect. But to me, it's like, yeah, it's actually kind of hard to tell, especially when things get more and more advanced with video games. You look at video games and how they're set up and how the reward systems are set up and the things you do.
And you see the potential of where it can go. Yeah.
Like, why do we play video games? Like, there's something that compels us to play video games. We enjoy it when, you know,
the rewarding aspect of it.
Yeah. And like, I'm a huge fan of first person or third person open world RPGs. I really like, that's my go-to video game, is it just open world RPGs, like Fallout or Skyrim, or there's so many good ones out there. But to me, you look at the advancement of video games and like how the resolution's getting better and how like the immersion's getting better and everything gets better, and it's like, oh, the natural progression to video games is eventually we're going to do VR, and then we're going to do, you know, a chip in your brain that makes you like go into the video game. We're like, oh wait, hold on, what if we're already inside? Like, that would, to me, that makes the most sense, that we're already inside of some version of that. You know what I mean?
Okay.
So I guess I just look at video games and I look at like where we're already going as a species, and I'm like, what if we're just making more and more and more and more and more layers to this video game, and like, this is what it is. I think this being either a simulation or a video game is, in my mind, the most logical, likely scenario.
What if we are the first level of it and the ones that actually create it?
I think that if it was a good video game, then we would believe that. You know what I'm saying? But here's another thing. This is the part that kind of trips you up, is that if it was a really good video game, you wouldn't want to know it was a video game. You know?
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. If it was really good and really immersive, you wouldn't be able to tell the difference.
Yeah, and you wouldn't want to know.
Because the idea is to go enjoy it and fully forget about your other world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The problem with that belief is that
You're in a video game.
Well, you're in the video game, but like it kind of removes consequences from life, which I don't think is good. And I don't know if the thought that I don't think it's good is built into the game in order to keep it like
coming.
in order to keep it from like, self-destructing. Or if it's I don't know. I have no idea.
Well, you could always just do a good level of it, like if there's no consequences, like obviously there's consequences here. What if we're in a video game, then there's no consequences after you're done with this video game, but your character might get stuck in jail, so to speak. But you could always just be like, hey, if this is the way I believe and there isn't any like full on like consequences, so to speak, go enjoy your life more.
Yeah.
Because I think there's a good level of risk that should be accepted of consequences. Sorry. Like we could enjoy our lives a lot more if we didn't, consider all the long-term consequences so much,
Yeah, 100%.
You could take off right now and live who knows how long off of all the money you have and just
long time.
Yeah, and just fucking enjoy your life, but the reason you're not doing it is because of the long term.
Yeah. But
so
here's the thing, is that there's not that many things I don't do already that don't have like really bad long-term effects. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'll quit nicotine eventually. I'll stop drinking so much coffee eventually. I'm not always gonna I don't really drink that much alcohol, honestly. I'll get in shape eventually. You know what I mean? Like long term, like I'm already kind of fucked if I continue doing what I'm doing. But in the short term, I realize that like if I keep doing what I'm doing, that like in the long term, like I guess so much of our lives revolve around money, like trying to make money, trying to save money, trying to invest money, because that, regardless of whether it's a video game or not, there are like legitimate consequences to not having money, right? Like money's the best, easiest way to get things done,
Yeah, definitely.
But definitely thinking too long about long-term consequences or focusing too much on the long term and not the short term, it does cause issues.
Yeah.
And I feel like I do a decent job balancing it, but also, I kind of got stuck in the side quest of trucking.
Same, dude.
Oh, fuck. It's been such a good thing, and at the same time, it's such a mind fuck if you think about it too much,
Yeah, and like you've done way better at it than I have. Yeah. And I've really come to the realization that like I'm not enjoying my life.
No, it's not a great life.
Yeah, it's not at all. And I would rather have way less money and actually be able to enjoy my life. Like that's kind of the point I'm trying to get to right now, is because I realize I'm not happy here. Yeah, I make good money, but the whole point of life is to enjoy it.
Yeah, 100%.
And I'm not enjoying myself as much as I could be here.
Damn.
And so I've decided that I'm fucking quitting trucking. I might go be broke and fucking end up in even more debt than I am, but I am going to try to really enjoy life, or at least enjoy it more than I am, because I'm just not enjoying it here,
So I think that's badass. I think it's cool that you think that way, and I think that's kind of a logical conclusion to come to after spending 3.5 years pretty much nonstop inside of a semi.
Yeah.
But I will tell you my experience. You want to hear it?
Yeah.
I did think the same thing. I'd way rather, about a year ago, actually, a year and a half ago, I bought that trailer. I renovated it. I moved down to Austin, Texas. I said, I don't care. I'm going to figure it out. I'm going to make it happen somewhere else. And my conclusion is that having money is really nice. That's really
I believe it.
It's super nice. Having money is super nice. And that didn't mean, okay, I'm going to spend the rest of my life as a trucker. I looked at the life in Texas and I looked at the life up here and I said, wow, the life in Texas is awesome. But, I'm kind of used to making this certain level of money. Like I consider myself to be a person that makes this amount of money per month, per year, per hour. And, in order to take a major step down from that, and I think I would have too, but I'd have to enjoy my job, and there just weren't that many jobs available to me that I really was like, okay, yeah, I'm going to love this job. I'm going to go enjoy the shit out of it. And I'm going to make less money, but it's going to be worth it because I'm going to have a better life. There just weren't that many jobs out there that I really was like, oh, yeah, this is the obvious path for me.
Yeah.
But then after coming back, I guess after coming back, what did happen? Because I made a 4-month plan. I said, I'm going to come back for 4 months.
And then you bought a house.
I'm going to come back for 4 months. I'm going to make... I said I was going to save, I think I wanted to save like $100,000 in 4 months. I think that was my goal. So that didn't happen exactly. But I obviously made killer money. It's been, 10 and a half months now. So we're at 10 and a half months. I'm 10 and a half months into my 4-month plan. Now I own a house. I don't know why. That was a major mind fuck. That was like what am I doing? Okay, here's what it was. Not to digress too far, but I told myself last fall, I said I want to own real estate. I want to own property in the United States. Come hell or high water, next spring/summer, I am buying a house. I don't care what's going on. I'm buying a house. I'm sick of waiting. I've been renting all my life. I've been here for 5 years. Next spring or summer, I am either moving away and buying a house somewhere else, or else if I'm still here, I'm buying a house here. Because everyone, like I say, there's people that have lived here for, 10, 15 years. We said at the beginning that if said, they still fly back and forth. Every couple months they fly home for a week and then they come back for a couple months. It's like, that's a shitty life. Just buy a fucking house here already. You live here, right? Yeah. And you're wasting all that money on rent. So I have so many friends here that have been here for 10 plus years
that just never bought because they always
that
thought
are
they
still
were be
living in they saw their wife and their kids in an apartment, and it's sad. It's like, hey, your kids are growing up in an apartment and it's just a shitty lifestyle. Just buy a house. Like if you bought a house, even after living here for 5 years, if you just bought the house, 5 years later, you'd have all this equity built. It's just the smart thing to do. But nobody wants to do it because nobody believes they're going to be here. It's always another year or two, and then they're going to be gone. But anyways,
10 years later.
Long story short, I said, come hell or high water, 6 months ago in my mind, I figured Gilbert in 6 months from now is going to have his life fucking figured out. And he's going to have some grand plan. And he's going to have all kinds of money. So no matter what, in 6 months, I'm buying a house. And 6 months later, I'm still here. I couldn't figure out a better place. I really wanted to buy it. I could have bought in a random place in Arizona, South Dakota, Texas, all the places that people are going to. And I was just like, you know what? I'm not quite ready to let go of it. So I bought a house and here I am. And honestly, it kind of hurts your guts. For the first week I was here. It kind of hurt my guts. And now that I own the house, I'm just like, this wasn't as big a deal as I thought it was going to be. Yeah. And I feel like I could easily move out of here and just rent my house out to somebody. Like the market's so good right now in North Dakota that I feel like I could rent the house out. But it's kind of like a mental thing. It's like, oh, well, now I live here. Like now I'm, buying furniture to match each room of the house. And like, I'm getting like the perfect podcast studio set up. Why would I move away? So you do grow roots 100%. I'm not going to act like, oh, I'm still going to leave at the end of the year. But I don't know. That's why I kind of wonder is I don't know if the grass is really greener on the other side, because I moved away and thought, all my wildest dreams would come true. And then it was like, wow, the money is actually super nice. Yeah. And obviously, I had reasons that I kind of had to come back. I didn't have to come back, but like it would have been more convenient to come back than to try and, hack it out the way I was doing it. And I definitely don't regret coming back. I don't know if I'll regret buying a house here or not, but I think doing what you said is the point of life is to enjoy it, and I think that's true. I absolutely think that's true, and I think that being able to live in a house and feel like you're actually building towards something would cause me to enjoy it a little bit more. And to quit, just that kind of stopping thinking that, okay, it's temporary. You're just going to live here for 6 months and you're going to go right off into the sunset kind of mentality. Like, it's a great mentality to have, but holy shit, people have that mentality their entire lives and they never end up riding off into the sunset. Or if they do ride off into the sunset, it lasts a month or two and then they end up back where they're at, back at square one.
Or they do it at the end and they die a month later.
Yeah, so it's like, honestly, I knew I wanted to do a podcast. For sure, I knew I wanted to do a podcast. I decided randomly, got a wild hair at my ass, decided I'm going back to college. I'm going to do like business management and probably either computer science or engineering.
Yeah.
In the event that I never make it big podcasting, I'd like to have a really cushy stay-at-home 6-hour-a-day job in the tech world. And But there actually are a bunch of people. I'm making a list of like all the people I want to interview now that I live here in Williston. So that is actually.
Now that you live here.
It's funny. It feels like Williston. There's like nothing going on in Watford City. Like I haven't done it. This is the first podcast I've done in 5 months, and it's not because like I dropped the ball and I stopped wanting to do it. It's because it's just so hard to. First of all, everyone I know, like the 3 people I know in Williston that I could do a podcast with, like live in Williston, so it's really hard to set these things up. But also, it's like there's just nothing going on in Watford City.
Okay.
But now that I live here, there's actually like people like local. Like there's a lady that works in the newspaper that I want to try and get on my podcast.
Really?
Yeah, there's like cool guests that like people would actually, you know.
Just be like, oh yeah, I'm famous.
Not to me. To me, they're famous because like I'm super.
No. I meant you. I want to add you to my podcast. Everyone is waiting.
So should I do that? Like, what should be like my pitch to people to get them on my podcast? Because so you would know because I had to get you on my podcast. All I did was just asked, and you're like, yes.
Well, you can just say you want to invite them over to a podcast. And if they ask about your followers, just come up with a good way to not tell them.
I don't know. I'm going to try and make it happen. But for reals, what should I tell them? Like what would be the most, like the selling point, you know? Probably I don't have one, dude.
So I started a podcast. Do you want to be honest? Honestly, that's a really good question. I haven't looked into podcasts much. Like literally your podcast is like the only one I've ever listened to.
Really?
Yeah, like I am not a podcast person at all.
I don't know if that's reassuring or not, but
dude, you got me to listen to a podcast.
I'm glad I'm the one.
Exactly. Honestly, it's a very good question. I don't know. Like 100%, I'm not the right person to ask this question.
All right. Fair enough. It wasn't a good question.
Like, I can give you answers, but they might not be the right ones. Like I said, distract them with another answer because I am all about that because you don't want to be like, oh, yeah, I have my 10 followers.
I'm sorry to answer your question with a question, but how many followers do you have? I kind of want to turn this podcast a little bit into like local North Dakota news.
Okay.
Because I think the state of North Dakota is actually very interesting. And I'm also very interested.
News to me.
No,
wow, I have learned something.
There's
I
actually,
will come back.
Here's the thing. There's so much national news. Like, people are so focused on, like, what the president's doing, what Putin's doing in Russia, China. What?
It made a sound.
What made a sound?
Yeah,
a laptop?
Made it sound like something got... I don't know. It made a sound where it could have been something disconnecting or pretty much a general notification sound.
Oh, there it is.
Yeah, that sound.
All right. Oh, I'm surprised you heard it. I didn't hear it at all.
I always hear computers.
People are so focused on national news, and it's so boring and has nothing to do with anyone's life, and it has no impact on them. But local news...
Besides mentally.
Well, yeah, but even
that's
then,
news.
It just makes them be in a shittier mood. It just makes them
100%.
It doesn't actually, like...
affect their lives.
Doesn't affect their lives really at all. I mean, gas prices go up here and there, and groceries go up because of this and that. But it's like nobody has any real control. Like the average person is so fucking far removed from the news that they consume on a day-to-day basis. It's actually kind of sad that we all pay attention. So
I'd like to point out I'm in that 0% that does not watch the news.
it's funny. I'm very selective about the news I watch. I don't watch any news that has anything to do with tragedy or outrage.
Okay.
I strictly follow oil news because that directly affects my life.
That's good.
And I strictly follow news on the economy because I'm a degenerate day trader in the stock market. That also affects my life. I lost a lot of money.
Same.
But no, I think local news is super interesting. I think that just local, like, just stuff is just within the state of North Dakota, maybe like a little bit in Montana, South Dakota, neighboring states.
In the general area,
yeah,
essentially.
There's so much stuff going on in North Dakota. The governor has his own podcast. Nobody listens to it, including myself. It's saved. It's been saved in a tab in my browser for like 5 months. I'm eventually going to get around to listening to his podcast. But like, really, what does he have to say? Come on. But no, but they actually do interesting stuff. They have press conferences, they have a newsletter. The governor does the local Williston news. They have like a segment totally dedicated to North Dakota energy news. And it's all very interesting stuff, and I don't think it gets enough attention, considering the fact that it has like a huge impact on everyone's life. You know what I mean? Like if they shut down the Dakota Access Pipeline that goes through the Standing Rock tribes reservation, like that's completely going to affect all of us, and nobody really knows anything about it. And it's like, why not? It seems like we should know. It's like we all make our livelihood off of it. So like I'm actually getting really obsessed with local news, and so that's kind of
yeah. You mentioned the Standing Rock tribe. I'm like, what the fuck is that?
They're the Standing Rock tribe is in South Dakota, and they so about 40% of North Dakota, the Bakken's oil is shipped through a pipeline called the Dakota Access Pipeline. And they put it under a reservoir that the Standing Rock tribe uses as a water source, the pipeline, and they didn't get all the correct permits. Or they got the correct permits, but the Army Corps of Engineers didn't conduct a super thorough environmental impact study before giving them a permit to go under the reservoir. And so they drilled the pipeline, started shipping oil. We ship 40% of our oil through this pipeline.
It's not even fully done, so to speak.
They didn't do a complete environmental impact study on it. And so they sued to try and get the pipeline shut down. The judge almost shut it down, and when they almost shut it down, all the stock prices for all the local companies, Whiting, Oasis, Continental, like all the companies that make money in the Bakken, their stock prices just dropped like a fucking rock, like overnight. And then the judge ruled that they could keep the pipeline going, active, while they're conducting the environmental impact study. And then all the prices of the stock shot back up, and I made so much money. But I had no idea about it until after the fact.
Good news, everybody. If we keep this pipeline under the ground running, it won't actually affect us.
Yeah. Well, there's like, I guess there's legitimate concerns to shut it down. I guess. I've done so much research, and I cannot find like a definite answer. I think it's a money thing, honestly.
More than likely in like an Indian thing.
Yeah, because like, okay, so the Standing Rock... And I'm subscribed to both sides. Like I'm subscribed to the Standing Rock Nation's newsletter. So they send me out like these like Dancing with Water has made a proclamation to the tribe about the evil of the Wasichu or whatever the fuck, the white people. You know what I'm saying? And
the evil of the white people.
I'm obviously kind of making fun of them. That's not really what they said. But I subscribe to their little newsletter, and they give me like these kind of tidbits. And I'm like, kind of makes sense. Maybe we should shut down the pipeline. You know what I mean? But then,
can you give me something?
Well,
like what did they say that kind of made sense?
The white man. Let's be
honest.
The what? The white man.
The white man.
The white man has kind of fucked over the Indians a lot, And we've
that's been obvious from the beginning.
We kind of promised them a lot of things. We're too drunk to be having this conversation because we're being very offensive right now. But the truth is, we actually have promised them a lot of things. And it's like as soon as there's like money involved and like we can benefit like just financially from just fucking them over, we kind of just do it. And we've done it for hundreds of years.
I 100% see that.
Yeah, so it's like, you know what I mean? So
that's literally what everyone does every fucking time.
Right? It's like as soon as there's like dollar signs on the horizon, we're like, hey, listen. You know, I know we had that deal, but that was before we knew that we needed the thing you had that we promised you. So, like, maybe fuck off.
Yeah.
It's kind of the same thing. So, like, I feel bad for the Indians, but on the same, like, on the same side of that, it's like there's Indians up here, the Fort Berthold Indian Reservation. They wrote an op-ed, an open whatever editorial, and they're like, listen. We need this pipeline, like all of our oil, because there's like the Indians in Fort Berthold make a shit ton of money, like just fuckloads of money on royalties from drilling on their land, and all their oil gets shipped through the pipeline, right? Yeah. And so if they shut down the pipeline in South Dakota, it fucks over the Indians in North Dakota. They're different tribes. They don't share the same banking system, clearly. So these guys in North Dakota are like, they write an op-ed, and they're like, hey, listen, we've dealt with a lot of bullshit. And, like, we need this money, guys. So, like, please, for fucking Christ, do not shut down this pipeline. And the guys in South Dakota are like, fuck you. You guys can't come drill a fucking pipeline on our property. You can fuck right off. And it's kind of what it is. So it's like, I'm just saying, I've read both sides and I don't really know myself. Because on the one hand, it seems fairly obvious that we're kind of like bypassing all the Indians and not giving them, you know, what they want. Yeah. And we're going through their land, which we gave them. We said, hey, we fucked you guys over out of all this other land. And we gave you this small slice of land that's your own. You guys can do whatever you want with it. Oh, but no, never mind. Actually, we need part of it. We need to do all these things with it. So it's like, on the one hand, I feel bad, but on the other hand, I'm like, it's clearly a money thing because there's other Indians that are like, you know, stand to gain money from the pipeline continuing to operate. They're like, hey, we need the pipeline. And the other Indians are like, hey, you guys are evil white people. Shut down the fucking pipeline. You guys are threatening our way of life, which, you know, they have a couple valid arguments. I mean, the company that owns the pipeline, Energy Transfer, they've made a lot of oil spills. I mean, you've been out here. I mean, how many spills have you seen in your life that just get covered up or that pollute shit?
All of them.
Dude, so many.
Yeah. It's like the oil pipeline actually makes spill, or is it the oil?
Yeah. They crack open.
Oh.
Yeah, they break. In fact, just this year, I've gone to like half a dozen different pipelines for various different oil companies to fix leaks in pipelines.
Wow.
So they happen. So basically the story of the Dakota Access is it goes under a reservoir, a major reservoir, and they drill under it. And the Standing Rock tribes are basically saying that if the pipeline ever burst or leaked under the reservoir, it would pollute their water source. And they don't really have a good emergency response in place. So if the pipeline ever burst, it could pollute their reservoir, and they really have no great way of cleaning it up. And they also, the amount it would have to leak before their detection system, because they have like a pressure detection system. So like if it loses a certain percent of pressure, they know it's leaking somewhere. But that pressure is like, I could be wrong, but let's just say, for instance, it's like 1%. So if they lose 1% pressure, they know it's leaking somewhere, but 1% is like 60,000 barrels a day. It's like a lot of lost oil before they notice, like, oh, by the way, there's a leak somewhere. We need to shut the pipeline. So basically, there's an argument on both sides, honestly.
I can definitely see that. Like, that's a big fucking problem.
Yeah, but it's also pretty far underneath the reservoir. So there's like a lot of things that go into it. But make a long story short, I've actually been to a lot of different pipelines that have leaked this year.
When you say pipelines, do you mean like actual full-on pipelines that go to far places, or just like to a local disposal?
More like the local disposal kind.
Do you
I'm
know
not a
if-
professional on pipelines, but just based on how many, because there's saltwater pipelines, which saltwater is incredibly toxic. It contains, T-norms. It contains, various shit that you don't want leaching into public waterways.
Oh, 100%.
You don't want it in the aquifer. You don't want it in farmlands. Like, that's bad shit. So it's just not good, right? And like, I've already been to a bunch of them that have like they have to go dig it up, and then I go do spill control on them, and I go pull out 100 feet of hose, and I provide vacuum as they cut into the pipeline to like suck up any water that spills into a little bin. But I always ask a million questions. I'm like, oh, so what are we doing here? Like, oh yeah, this pipeline started leaking. We noticed because all the snow would melt in this big patch over the ground. I was like, so you didn't notice? You only noticed because the snow was melting? They're like, yeah. And then like there's like,
so it's just straight up leaking and
it's just leaking down. Yeah, it's leaking, and some of it's coming up, some of it's going down. They notice, they shut down the pipeline, they pull it all apart, and they fix it. But I'm like, so it was just like, how long was it leaking for? Oh, we don't know. Probably not that long.
Probably not
okay,
that long.
Well, I guess we're like in the middle of a fucking field. They're growing wheat out here, or alfalfa, or I don't know what the hell they're growing, but they're growing something, and we're leaking into this field. It's like, basically the point is I don't really have an opinion on it one way or another, but I think it's super interesting.
Okay.
And so I guess that would be like the overarching point of this podcast. I guess if I had to have a niche, like what is this podcast committed to? Because obviously there's podcasts that are funnier and more entertaining than mine. I think it'd be cool to do like a lot of local news, so people could at least, while they're hearing about the news, they're hearing about stuff that actually impacts them on like a personal level. Like, because if this pipeline gets shut down, that effectively shuts down 40% of the capacity to ship oil out of the Bakken. Now, all they have is, tankers on trucks, which is not efficient.
Not at all.
And the train, the Burlington Santa Fe Northern, whatever train, which ships a lot of oil. But
honestly, I think local news would be pretty cool. I haven't looked into it whatsoever.
Nobody really has. Nobody really gives a fuck.
Yeah,
all they care about is Joe Biden.
I think if you actually got public about it somehow, like you said, talk to a local reporter or something, like talk to someone to be like, hey, I want to, like you tell them, hey, I want to help get this news out.
Yeah.
You inform people that we're doing this podcast. I'll tell my buddies.
Your 3 other friends I've also been on the podcast.
Exactly. Exactly. But you tell them like, hey, I really want to help get this news out here. Can I help you help me, so to speak? And even do like a 15 minutes. It doesn't have to be an hour.
Yeah, you're right.
It could be a 5-minute podcast for all it. Like I don't know if it has to be a certain length, so to speak, but it doesn't have to be long. It could be a 5-minute starter one, and you could be like, hey, let's try this again next week. Maybe go to 10 minutes.
I'm hoping to get at least 45 minutes to an hour out of each podcast. It feels like a good amount, but no, for sure. And I kind of already have that plan, but I guess,
yeah.
I guess it's tough if you don't have an audience. It's like,
is what you can do is tell them you want to do a podcast and maybe pitch them a low amount, and if it gets interesting, it'll go on from there. But just tell, like, I don't know much about podcasts.
Yeah,
I don't know if they usually go on for 3 hours or 5 minutes. I'm assuming they're usually kind of long because you're saying 45 minutes to an hour.
It depends, but for me, I feel like 45 minutes to an hour is like a good podcast. Like, that's where most of mine end up.
But you can tell them like, hey, 5-10 minutes of your time, 15 minutes, 30 minutes, whatever you feel comfortable with, but just tell them like, hey, I really want to help spread this news, because this is really interesting stuff. Everyone's paying attention to stuff that doesn't really affect them.
Yeah.
And just tell them like, hey, I really want to help the locals actually learn about what's happening.
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
It's a good way to phrase it.
Yeah. why do I have such a good idea? But literally,
maybe you're just an NPC in the simulation trying to give me like the next hint on my side.
Hey, fuck off.
On the main storyline.
I'm the main NPC here.
You're the main. I'm pretty sure my wife is the main NPC. Thank you very much.
Not here at the moment. But anyways, like I do feel like that would be a really good way to put it. Be like, hey, I want to help the locals learn about this news. I don't have very many subscribers, but I'm really hoping to try and get the word out there to help you out. You know, you help me, I help you type of deal, you know?
Good point. I'm going to start doing that. I'm going to quit my job and
go get them.
I'm going to sell my truck.
Yeah. Me and Julia actually started up a YouTube channel.
Oh, yeah?
And TikTok. Yeah.
Beside your Minecraft one?
Yeah, I've kind of been doing that a bit.
That's cool. You should send me a link to it.
Yeah, I think I did.
Oh, by the way, I watched that TikTok you sent me. It turns out I just figured the end was when you guys showed the picture, but I clicked away. I didn't even... Yeah, I feel bad.
I'm so offended.
I was on the job. I was getting paid. And I was like, I should probably put away my phones. But
you like look at it for 2 seconds, be like, okay, cool. Neat, and then look away and be like,
no. I watched it to what I thought was the end, but lo and behold, there's like an end after the end.
Yeah.
Well, you guys have a YouTube channel. What's it called?
Resin Jules.
Resin Jules.
Yeah. My gamer tag is Reskin.
Okay.
And hers is usually just Juliet something, or Jules is the queen.
Cool.
So we did Resin Jules, and yeah, it's pretty neat.
Hell yeah. So follow these guys at Resin Jules on YouTube
and TikTok Facebook and Instagram
and Twitter, obviously. Do you have a Twitter?
I don't know if we have a Twitter.
You need to get Twitter. Twitter's actually fun, and I need more followers.
You need more followers.
And Spencer and Jules, Rez and Jules at twitter.com at some point by the time this is released. But
2024.
Coming soon, 2024, to a Twitter account near you.